introductions. The Vice Chancellor and Commandant of the Zimbabwe National Defense University, members of the directing staff, senior officers from various security organizations here present, participants from various countries who are attending to this important lecture, which focuses primarily on the evolution of information systems in the context of the media and national security. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Fourth Estate, it is with great pleasure that I've also been given an opportunity to articulate a number of issues related to the evolution of information systems, which are also components in the integration and fusion of hardware, software, and systems organized through data, the participation of people, and also the processes involved in disseminating information in the context of national security. But perhaps we need to define what national security is in the context of the utilization of ICT systems. In that, national security can no longer be defined in terms of territorial integrity or sovereignty in terms of the physical space and territory that we currently are in a position to be able to control in terms of our sovereignty. But it is now also defined in terms of the cybersecurity framework that we currently have in terms of the International Telecommunications Union. Of importance is the reality that the media plays a very important role, and especially broadband data, that ICTs have transformed the way we live. ICTs have transformed the way we conduct business. ICTs have also defined and transformed the whole media landscape. In the context of Zimbabwe, with about 8+ million subscribers in terms of the portals subscriber base in terms of the directory, it automatically means that we have 8+ million people with smartphones, with the capacity to be able to be hooked onto various info management system platforms, which also includes, in the context of media, different social media platforms. Broadcasting information and publicity is totally transformed to an extent that the print media is going down. And more people now rely more on online media platforms. More and more Zimbabweans and all citizens within Africa also rely on various social media platforms for education, for entertainment, and also for the information. And the fact that most of these social media platforms are not hosted in Africa automatically means that we have a challenge in terms of the data sovereignty part. It also means that we do not have authority over the digital sovereignty arena. And this also affects the national security of any country in the world. The more citizens hook onto these social media platforms, it automatically means that the host countries, in terms of the servers and the digital infrastructure, have got an idea of the identity of these particular citizens. The more people interact on Facebook, the more people interact on WhatsApp platforms, it means we are handing over a lot of raw data to those countries that are hosting these particular social media platforms. The future of the whole world will certainly depend on how best each and every country will be in a position to manage the cyberspace. And my advice to the security sector is to try and ensure that we work together to develop a sustainable cyber security framework in order to complement the Cyber and Data Protection Act that we currently have, which seeks to ensure that there is safety and security in the utilization of information communication technology. Because we've reached a point of convergence between information communication technology and information publicity and broadcasting services. The reality that any citizen of this country can be in a position to be able to broadcast whatever they would want to broadcast, whether positive or negative, automatically means that we need to refine our laws. We need to ensure that we come up with sustainable ICT and information and publicity and broadcasting services, legal frameworks, in order to protect the citizens of our country. Because national security also defines the way we are able to interact with citizens of our country as a government. But the future governments, elected whether on a political platform, through campaigning or electioneering, will have to use various ICT and social media platforms. And this poses a great danger in terms of national security. An easy example is the Arab Spring, where governments were removed or overthrown through the use of social media platforms. So we need to broaden and redefine what national security is, with emphasis on media and social media platforms. We need to broaden and redefine our national security in terms of cyber security. Because in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, all key national strategic institutions like power generation plants, power distribution systems, information systems, are part and parcel of the national security architecture. The proliferation of social media platforms, the proliferation of citizen journalism in the context of broadcasting has transformed the way people communicate, has transformed the way people receive information, has transformed the way people disseminate ideas, educate the citizens of any country. In the context of creating alarm and despondency. The utilization of artificial intelligence, deepfake, voice cloning, all this has transformed the way media and broadcasting services operates in the context of Zimbabwe. Recently, there have been a lot of fake social media dissemination in the context of what has been taking place in the countryside through the utilization of broadband social media platforms. Any particular citizen who perhaps does not like the achievements of Vision 2030 under the leadership of President Idi Mnangagwa can generate fake news, can generate, utilizing artificial intelligence, utilizing algorithms, negative news, but outside the borders of this country, and affect the way people perceive, can affect the morale of the people, can affect the way people think about a particular government. So the future politics of the whole world, the future politics of Zimbabwe, of the African continent, has got to have a comprehensive hybrid media strategy which takes care of online media platforms, which also takes care of the evolution of information management systems. Because the future of politics will move away from mainstream media. The total number of print media organizations in terms of the publishers are printing not more than 100,000 copies per day. But at the same time, how many messages, how many terabytes are being utilized on social media platforms to inform, to educate, and to entertain citizens of our country, citizens of our continent? This brings us now to the question of social media imperialism. That any country which is technologically sovereign, any country which is technologically savvy in terms of the development of various pieces of hardware and software in the context of the media platforms, can be able to influence decisions in the next country. This is why it is important for us as a people, this is why it is important for us as a continent, as a country, to be able to develop our own social media platforms. This is why it is important for us as a country to work together as a continent to underline the importance of digital sovereignty, to underline the importance of data sovereignty in the context of data centers, in the context of information security. Because unless we develop our own homegrown solutions in terms of information systems that can broadcast, store, disseminate, transform, transmit, utilizing algorithms, it automatically means we are on the verge of being colonized once again through social media imperialism, through media misinformation and disinformation from hostile states, that we will be in a position to influence the thinking of our people in any country in Africa, in any country throughout the world. So it is important for us as a people to be able to work together as a continent, perhaps starting with the Smart Africa Alliance, where a number of African heads of state have agreed on a single digital economy. They've also discussed and deliberated on digital sovereignty and data sovereignty. Because in the context of national security, each and every citizen is important, but what they think, how they interact, what they perceive, the values of our people, their opinions in the context of media and broadcasting services is very important. The amount of information that they receive, transmitted also even from hostile countries, can determine the future of any country's social landscape, can determine the future of any economy. Because speculation and speculative behavior is mainly generated by perhaps an individual with a selfish and personal goal to achieve, perhaps in the context of arbitrage. How our economies function is based on the confidence. But the confidence is also based on what our people consume. What kind of information are our people getting? How are they being informed? Who is informing them? Who is in control of what our people think? This is why we need to redefine the evolution of information systems in the context of media and national security. Because economic instability can be caused by negative social media platforms to create alarm and despondency. Hyperinflation, hoarding of foodstuffs, can be caused by misleading information that is being channeled via various online, print, and social media platforms, which has redefined the way we communicate, the way we interact, the way we generate data across the country. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we need to ensure that as participants, we work together to develop modern, sustainable information management systems as a country. And I believe this center of excellence will be in a position to be able to work together to develop such ideas. Because generally, what we import in the context of a favorable or unfavorable balance of trade is based on what we know and what we do not know. The things that we import are things that we do not have an idea in terms of knowledge and experience in terms of manufacturing. But for Africa to be safe, for Zimbabwe to be safe, we need to redefine what digital sovereignty is in the context of media. We need to redefine media and broadcasting services. But there are a number of steps that His Excellency the President, Dr. Idi Mnangagwa, has been able to put in place in the new dispensation, starting with the new ICT policy, which recognizes the convergence of the media and broadcasting and ICT. The Smart Zimbabwe Master Plan, which also defines the way we communicate and transmit ideas, including the infrastructure, which we also utilize in the context of media and broadcasting. The Freedom of Information Act, the Zimbabwe Media Commission Act to regulate players. All these are some of the achievements that we have been able to develop under the leadership of President Idi Mnangagwa, which also includes the Cyber and Data Protection Act, which also governs how we communicate, how we transmit ideas, in order to ensure that we have safety and security of information. Because defamation now is more in the social media platforms, which is operating under different social media platforms and various other operating systems across the world. With these few remarks, distinguished guests, I want to thank you for attending. Thank you.